Where we stand is not an entrance, neither is it an exit. Once I allow you to see, if you go too deep, you fall. Because I want to see if it have a quick look. They come back. And then, the chamber of the male slave dungeon, I mentioned that there was an entrance to an underground passage. It connected to the borehole tank. This is a view of the passage. During shipment, they were not going to pass close to 1,000 men to the proxy. Because if they didn't decide to misbehave, they could not continue. They were not going to lead them through the tunnel because of how dark it was. So they were rather station advantage to the first and the second here, the third there, just to have a head count to confirm the numbers. This end was not an entrance, either an exit. It was just to keep a count and watch where we're going to. Please watch it and go to. Take time to see. Yes. Something very small you see elmina, still very small. This will be seen to be located because the sea sits right behind the wall. The waves came in, flooded the place, disrupted the business. They have to see this end, relocated it more to a much seating building. So initially, this served as a door for the hotel. Let's move down to see where the two people will hotel. The door will return. There is a female punishment cell. This had a very huge door here. This served as a source of light and ventilation for them. They were fed once a day through the vent. But at least the women were fed once a day each, unlike the men. The women were not left to die. But what I told the woman during the very punishment ceremony, this was reserved for those that said no to them, that resisted the abuse. Taken inside to be abused, you do not submit to them. They are brought in here to 7 to 10 days, fed once a day, was to bring them to submit. To tell them no candidate of rape was ever able to escape the abuse one single round. Regardless of what they did, they had the abuse. This was designed for the women that said no to them. The whole we see there is where they was released and defeated. Let's see the females speak that. female slave dies, they have 2 holding cells for the women. First, second is right to that. 150 to 200 women were held in each. Conditions very similar to that of the men. Everything was done down here. But I always choose to say, to me, treatment for the women was worse. You put aside the fact that they were sexually abused. Women were street money. If a lady is held in here for 4 months, you have to repeat the cycle no less than 4 times. Today, in the era of sanitary, where just picture a lady fluid heavily in the course of the day, not getting a chance for a shower at the end of the day. That is comfort you feel. Then revisit someone here 4 months in her flu. There comes that sometimes accompanies menstruation, infections, among other discomforts. That is where, to me, treatment for them was worse. I mentioned around the reason why we had to clean them first. They could not stand the stench emanating from them. If these women were sexually abused, then definitely some would be found pregnant here. Those that were fortunate to be seen pregnant here were taken outside the castle to brick houses. They were took good care of until they delivered. They were made to breastfeed their babies first in time. Babies were later separated from their mothers. Mothers were returned to the dungeons to await the next shipment. The babies were kept, taken care of, and educated. The church up on top of the male slave dungeon, doubled as a classroom walk for the mulattoes. Children born out of the rape were educated. They would grow to be the aristocrats, the big men, the big women you have in the site. Some themselves became slave merchants because of what they saw growing up. Those that were unfortunately not seen pregnant here, but en route to the new world were killed. Most were thrown overboard. Nobody was going to take care of a pregnant slave woman voyage. Nobody was going to purchase one. The question is between the enslaver and the enslaved, who merits compensations? Because when slave trafficking got abolished, a group was compensated. And between the enslaver and the enslaved, who merits and who was actually compensated? The enslaver was compensated because they seem to have lost businesses. They are taking food from their table, who were compensated. Up until now, there are calls for reparations. Compensations are still demanded for the harm committed against humanity. If you read how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, there's still this conception that Africa still suffers the impact of the transatlantic slave traffic. But the chance of a human population was uprooted, and for any nation to develop human resource comes in handy. A little over 3 years ago, our former president, Nana, joined a call, admonished African leaders come together and demand for compensation. But once he said that, I had a conversation with my boss that to me, reparations are better deserved by Africans in the diaspora, because they are the direct descendants of the enslaved Africans. My boss would argue otherwise. He believes Africans here, to a larger extent, deserve some compensation, because to him, Africa would have been better off had it not been the impact of slave trafficking. And then, secondly, they needed the able-bodied men. What happened to their children? Old men. I was like, split them into 2. First, we give it to those in the diaspora, like it or not, they are direct descendants. Whatever is to be allocated Africans here, in my view, should be a direct investment in infrastructure, among other developmental projects. Help the people here grow. They are not proud to say what I'm about to say, but the crop of leadership spread across Africa today, mostly cut from the coast of neo-colonialism. Give some of them 5 castles full of money. Some will find ways to misappropriate them to can't account for them. Giving certain leaders certain money in Africa, it's more like enriching a few group of greedy men in their families. Invest directly, let the citizens should rather enjoy firsthand. If you love and enjoy reggae music like myself, you can try Cape Coast to Jah. Cape Coast to Jah is a song by Joseph Hill culture. It speaks volumes about slave trafficking in this very edifice and around the treatment for the women. Let's see the infamous law of consent. Governor is saying something very small like I indicated earlier. A large in colonial times, those had to pass through and through the castle. Walking through this door as an enslaved African, one lost their rights as human beings, roots as Africans, dignity as men, identity as Africans had been displaced. Once an enslaved African journeyed through this door, they were someone else's property. What the person saw fit doing with them is what the person does. Africans, we bore and answered to names that spoke history. Our names told stories. One's name could easily distinguish between a royal and a peasant. Your name could easily point one to the clan, the ethnic group, or the tribe you belong to. Starting the tour, I mentioned that my name is Nana Owakia. If you know the naming systems of Ghanaians very well, if not for anything at all, you can easily tell I'm a fancy. Among the accounts, Nana is a chieftaincy title. I answered to Nana because I was named after my grandmother. She was a queen mother, Nana Apia. So I answered to Nana because I was named after her. Apia is a male version of the school name. Apia. Oh, because I'm a Thursday born fancy. My name tells all these things. Here in Ghana, you hear a name like Tindana. The person is a royal from the north. You hear Agiti, the person is a Ghana from Accra. You hear Estina Metona, America. You hear Watson, Parton, Chumantin, and Asante. You walk through this door, you lost those beautiful names. They call you what they choose, you answer to their names. Then you use your tongue. So to an Englishman, you will learn to speak English. You so to a French, you will learn to do same. They communicate with you in their tongue. They expect to respond to the commands. Gradually, their identity as an African was shown. The roots. Women were attached to the trade for procreation. When it gets to a time, human beings were bred like animals, forced to mate. Mating is too strong a word for man, but I always prefer mating. It's when a man was paired to a woman paired to a man, it was not because they were sexually attracted. Seeing well bold statures, stick tall figures they wanted prosperous such. Once paired, the acts needed to happen for children to come as a result. A simple assumption. A man that was captured from the Yoruba state, very old now, today is Nigeria. Claiming he remembers exactly if he was just captured from, he's just too old to return. If I was captured from the front line here in Ghana, my child moves to him for directions. They call him Blanks in the arm. I'm also arm, thinking that is his great grandfather saw some accurate direction for me. Where is he going to get to? The Yoruba land where he was captured, not the front line I came from. You journey through this door as an enslaved African, your roots as an African have been displaced. Thankfully, we are not enslaved. We would walk through the door of no return. We are definitely going to return. Let's roll out. Just walk through the door very time. Back in the day, right here would have met with the straight pressure. This was a walkie and a shallow process. The nature did not permit the big ships to come ashore. The big ships would have to go far from shore. They come here with boats and canoes for their share. Africans have a very powerful belief in reincarnation, believing that once you die, you come back to life again. And with this belief in mind, usually saying some of them saw prestige in death. Some chose death over captivity, with a belief that if they died here on their land, they were coming back to life again. Sailing to the ships, some decided to jump overboard to kill themselves. You say some chose and others were just unfortunate, tied together with those that wanted to die. Once those ones decided to jump overboard, unfortunately, they have to drag along those ties together with the streets. Those that survived to the ships were packed on shelves, head, tail. Then the voyage to the world on board will begin. Briefly, let's turn to see what we have up on top of the door. Up on top of the door, we see something else. There we see the door of return. We will have this year in 1998. Ghana first celebrated Emancipation Day. Our former president, Jerry John Rawlings, will travel to the Caribbean. You got to know they have a celebration there called Emancipation. Coming back, he would institute it here. During our maiden Emancipation celebration, would invite the African diaspora, every black person out there to join Ghana mark the maiden Emancipation. Those that honored the invitation would not come empty-handed. Coming back, they would return with two skeletons, two mortal remains to represent all those taken from our lands. From the ancestral graveyard in Jamaica, those that came with the remains of a woman called Madame Crystal. Those that came from New York came with that of a man called Samuel Castle. Coming to Ghana, they came with a plane. They would drive to Abanzi. There is a fort, 20 minutes to Cape Coast from Accra. There's a fort called Fort Amsterdam. If they came from Accra, but you missed them, heading back just after 15 minutes driving to your right. From that fort, they would return these skeletons using this. Right through this door. Very symbolic. We'd have this here. Breaking that jinx, that door of no return. As an enslaved African person, there was no return. This was a very important message to every black person out there. We have this belief wherever you find yourself on earth. The fact that you're a black person, you are from Africa. Passing them through this door was an invitation to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Reconnect with your roots and your ancestry. They held a special funeral celebration in here for them. They called it the Great Homecoming. They would be reinterred at Asenmantu. Asenmantu because we could not ascertain if they were Ghanaians or not. One thing for a fact, before these enslaved Africans were brought down, spread out to the castle, that is where they stopped to take their last parts as Africans. They saw why she was already there. 2019, Ghana marked the year of return. King would come with some remains as well. They will hold a special ritual for them as well. It will also be reinterred at Tasin Mountain. Today, if you visit Tasin Mountain, 45 minutes to 1 hour drive from here, you'll see the graves of the those in return, Madam Crystal, Smokehouse, and the others as well. Then here return. Stepping out, we saw an aquaba in front of a female slave dungeon. We stand there with have our conclusions to today's experience. Those that miss the male slave dungeon, I'll take you back once you're done. So let's step in.